Welcome back to Conspired, where skeptics and believers come together to discover the truth.
I like how you say skeptics as in plural and believers as in plural, as if we're in a room full of skeptics and believers and we're just their leaders.
We are.
We're a skeptic and a believer come together.
Where a skeptic and believer come together to discover the truth.
Oh my gosh. Well, if you're going to do it, you might as well explain that.
Do what?
Explain your voice so no one thinks you just talk like that.
I think they understand that.
No.
How did it all start? How did we start
Thrones.
that? Is it Game of Thrones? Yeah.
Hodor.
So, we love Game of Thrones, and there's a character on there, his name is Hodor.
Rest in peace.
The only thing that he says is, Hodor.
He says it like that.
Yeah, he says it just like that, Hodor.
Just like it.
And so, Natalie, her last... Yeah. See, I had to give your last name.
I know, but I used to... Okay, I think I know what happened. I made fun of the way you talk sometimes, and I would, whenever I imitate any male, no matter who it is, I always put on, this deep, dumb voice to make him sound like...
Like a caveman.
Well, yeah, I guess so, but I never thought about it, I guess, before. I guess it does make him sound like that, but in my perspective, I'm just imitating a male voice.
Her male voice sounds like a caveman.
My brother...
She's like, Gerald loved to go to the store.
That's what it was. Okay, so, whenever... he would do something dumb, I would make him talk in third person and I don't know, what is the things I used to say?
Just different things. Gerald knows how to do stuff.
So if he did something dumb or something, Gerald's smart or something.
Yeah, Gerald's smart.
Or something like that. Anyway, he got tired of it, so one day, I don't even know, but he got it from Game of Thrones. That's where the Game of Thrones reference comes in. And man, we can't really say it because it'll give away my last name. I don't know if I want that broadcasted everywhere.
Yeah, we do keep anonymity because we've had a lot of crazies out there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's another thing.
And I'd rather not be Googled.
Right. But all you need to know is that he put my last name in combination with Door. But then I would respond by calling him Gerald Door.
Yeah, and then our dog is Skydor. Skydor.
And she responds to that. Now I just call her that.
Yeah.
Along with Sky, I'm like, Skydor, come here. And she responds. Well, she just hears Sky.
She just hears Sky, and then she's like, oh, what's the door? Let's go
to
the door.
But anyway, that's how that got started. Every now and then, if Gerald's talking about something, Gerald. Oh, we were Holly Wild. This past Christmas, and Gerald was looking at the lights. He was like, "Oh my god, these are so." He lights them. And I was like, "Gerald loves lights."
Yeah.
like a moth to a light source.
A moth to lights. Yes. Gerald loves lights.
Gerald loves lights. Oh, see, now that they know about this, I can make fun of you on here too.
Yay.
Gerald's smart. Gerald
see, now I can't use yours. It's kind of messed up. I'm going to end up using yours.
You better not.
Actually, I have in the past.
I'll kill
you. If you go back to previous episodes,
you could probably know. But anybody who's trying to sketch on us probably won't invest that much time into it. Hopefully nobody invests that much time to go back and find that episode.
I don't know. There's one group. That one group was pretty crazy.
Gerald love podcasts.
Gerald love podcasts. All right, we need to get off of this and actually get back on the episode. These people are waiting for part 2 of the case of Jodi Arias.
Jodi Arias. What'd you think of the first episode?
I listened to it. I know we did it, but I listened to it again, and
I feel like I don't ask your opinion enough. I just spout out information, and it's I want it to be more like a conversation, because a lot of this you probably are hearing for the first time. So I think what I'm going to try to do throughout
3/4 of it is what I hear for the first time.
Throughout the rest of this series is kind of ask you about your opinion. And if I forget to do that, please.
That way I'm not just this little log sitting in the room with you.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like one of your pillows. You have 50 pillows, and I'm just one of them.
All right, so without further ado...
Oh, wait. If you're
Excuse me.
new to us, check us out on Twitter. Conspired, C-O-N.
Hopefully, if you're listening to part 2, though, you've already listened to part 1.
You never know. They might have accidentally clicked on it, and they're like, what is this? And they're like, oh, Conspired.
Yeah, you can find us on Twitter at Conspired. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. Just follow any of us on those social media platforms for regular updates about upcoming episodes.
And share it with your friends. Hit that 5-star. And if you want to give us a review, great. If not, we won't be mad at you.
We love reading reviews, though.
Yes,
so
they are pretty great.
Yeah. So if you can, and you do have time to give a review, just go ahead and do that for us.
Do it.
All right. Are we ready now?
Yes. Let's get into this.
So we left off last episode talking about the investigation and right up to the point where Jodi got arrested.
We finished listening to the interrogation.
We listened to a clip of the interrogation. So Jodi was arrested. I think I even said last episode, she had asked investigator Esteban Flores if before she was booked, she could do her makeup really quick. And
yes.
I think I also left off with saying that you're going to find that Jodi loves the media. Even if it's negative attention, she loves attention. Okay? So you're going to almost see her like thrive in this, and it's kind of sick in a way. So let's pick up with what were the goings on while Jodi was in jail.
The going-ons?
Going on. You know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
All right. So September 5th of 2008, Jodi was extradited to Arizona. And on the 9th of September, a public defender was assigned to represent Arias. And on September 11th, Jodi entered a non-guilty plea at her arraignment. It became very apparent that Jodi seemed to thrive in this attention she was getting. Because, of course, the media was all over this case. And it became nationwide fairly quickly. Even though it was negative attention, as she would demonstrate through her willingness to converse with the media. So on September 12th, Jodi did her first jailhouse interview with the Arizona Republic, which
Arizona Republic?
I believe that's probably some sort of news source, I suppose.
I wasn't sure if it was like a newspaper.
Or maybe it has to be.
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay. But Jodi, in the interview, Jodi denied killing Alexander, but refused to discuss how she was going to refute the DNA and photographic evidence that police claimed linked her to the crime. She's saying, I wasn't there. They're pinning this on me. They're like, what about the DNA? And she says, God knows I'm innocent. I know I'm innocent. I had nothing to do with this murder. I would never hurt him. He was my friend. And shortly after, when talking with Detective Flores again upon her request, remember last time they talked, he showed her the photograph. She's like, that's not me, or that was taken on a different day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she requested to speak with him again. Oh, and if I can just input this one little thing, I think it's quite interesting. At one point, to get Jodi to confess or give them more information, they were trying to connect with her more, so they sent in a female police officer or investigator. And it is the most bizarre thing because, and I've watched both of these jailhouse interviews, and when she talks to Detective Flores, like the first one, you can't get her to stop talking. But when they put this woman in there in the room with her, it's like she has her knees and she's like buckled up and she's like not even looking at the woman, much less talking to her. And then finally at the end of that, she says, can I speak with Detective Flores again?
Oh, so it's a male thing. Like she likes the male attention.
Yeah, it's like the male attention and almost as if maybe she feels she can manipulate men more than women.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I'm getting at. Because women see through that kind of stuff.
She's a succubus, I told you.
Women see through the fakeness and the fake sweetness. I think with men, because
it's harder if we had blindfolds
so visual,
on. Yeah.
And if something like, really cute and pretty is telling them something, they might be more apt to believe it. And that's not to say for all men. Like Detective Flores was very professional and she tried numerous times, you could tell, to manipulate him or flirt with him, and he was just not having it at all. So I don't know why she thought she could do this, but I guess
like
she...
when Sky gives me those puppy dog eyes, I have to give her whatever she wants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think Sky's a lesbian because she... Why are we talking about this? Sky's... That's not appropriate. She follows me around. That's what I was getting at.
Oh, okay.
She wants to spend more time with me.
Wait, I thought you were her mommy.
Exactly. That's why it's inappropriate. Okay. Anyway. Alright, so... Anyway, she asked to speak with him again. And when she speaks with him again, she changes her story for the second time. Okay?
Sure.
So, on September 24th, 2008, Jodi was interviewed by the TV show Inside Edition, and this is a very famous interview, and she said publicly for the first time what this second story was. And she described in this interview that she was present when Travis was attacked by 2 intruders. So now she's changed it to where the DNA, it makes sense, the pictures make sense, the DNA evidence makes sense, but she didn't do it.
Right.
But she was there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so... on October 31st, 2008, the Maricopa County Attorney's Office filed a notice of intent to seek the death penalty against Arias. The notice, filed in Maricopa County Superior Court, accused Arias of committing first-degree murder in an especially cruel, heinous, or depraved manner. On June 23rd, 2009, following her arrest, Arias expanded on her second story of the 2 intruder ninjas, as she would call them. In an interview with 48 Hours, and this again was another infamous interview, she admitted that she was present when he was murdered, but she said that his death occurred during a home invasion. Jodi reported that the 2 were having fun playing with his new camera when things started to take a sudden turn. This is a quote from Jodi. I'm just going to read from it. I heard a really loud pop, and the next thing I remember, I was lying next to the bathtub, and Travis was screaming. Jodi told 48 Hours. At that point, I was just trying to come around and kind of orient myself to what was going on, she continued. And I looked up and I saw 2 other individuals in the bathroom, and they were both coming toward us.
And it's scary when ninjas come at you.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The intruders, whom she described as a man and a woman dressed in black, were armed with a knife and a gun. At one point, she said the man pointed the gun at her, but she was miraculously spared. And so then she said he pulled the trigger and nothing happened with the gun. And so I just grabbed my purse, which was on the floor at that point, and I ran down the stairs and out of there, and I left Travis there. I pushed past him and his gun, and I just didn't look back. Jodi said she kept driving and never called the police. I was terrified, and I was scared for my life. I think that there was a naive belief that I could pretend like it really didn't happen, Arias said. Okay, so the thing with this story, and I listened to her actually tell Esteban Flores this before there was an interview. And the hilarious thing about this is after she tells him this story, and she's fake crying, of course, and everything. Or at least to me, it looks like she's fake crying. Anyway.
Most likely.
He looks at her and he's like, Jodi, he's like, you're going to tell me that 2 random people came in here and killed Travis and they let you go? She was like, well, they told me that I better not say anything or they're going to find me because they took a picture of my license. And he's like, Jodi, if they killed one person, why are they going to kill about killing a second one?
Yeah, why are they going to worry about that?
And she's like, they argued whether to kill me and then the gun jammed. And he was like, wow, that's super convenient. He's like, and it's weird that you didn't tell me that story to begin with. And so she had nothing to, like, he's such a good investigator because he doesn't even entertain. At first, he acts like he's on her side to get her to say more. But when he finds out that's all she's going to give him, he's like, come on. Like, he tries to get her.
Yeah, they had a knife, didn't they? I mean, even if the gun jams.
Yeah, a knife and a gun.
Yes, I'm just saying that they could kill her either way. And
then he entertains the idea and he's like, well, Jodi, why didn't you, if this is the case, why didn't you call 911 when you were safe away from the house? She was like, I was scared. I didn't want my family to get in trouble. And they told me that that's what they would do. And yeah, whatever. And she described it in even more detail on this 48 Hours special. And This is actually also where she had this infamous quote where she said, "No jury will convict me." And they said, "Why?" And they said, "Because I'm innocent. No jury will convict me, and you can mark my words on that." Why would you
I believe
ever say
for
that?
some reason I believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the crazy thing, though. I don't care if I was... First of all, I wouldn't be going on the media. That's the last thing you need to do. I think in her mind, she felt like if I go on the media and I get more of the public on my side, then possible jurors might come in and think this.
She thought it was MySpace and she was going to get a bunch of people to follow her.
That, and she liked she liked the attention.
Yeah.
But that is so not wise. Like, I don't know. It's just, and it's so arrogant, and she's like probably the only like infamous killer who has wanted and gotten this much media attention. Like, of course, Casey Anthony never said a word to the media, and I gotta hand it to her. Like, that was probably smart.
Maybe the smartest thing she's done.
Yeah. All right. So after that interview, December 2010. This is while she's in jail. Jodi beat out 50 other inmates to win an American Idol-style caroling contest for inmates held by America's toughest sheriff, Joe... Can you help me with that last name? Arpaio?
I don't even know how to pronounce that.
I think it's Spanish.
Arpaio?
I don't know. Arpaio. Arpaio. At the Maricopa County Jail. Her prize was a Christmas stocking full of goodies and a turkey dinner for herself and her cellmates.
Yay!
Yeah, and she's not even that good of a singer. I heard that recording of her singing.
I thought
August
she was like
8th,
an angel.
On August 8, 2011. Oh, you know what's creepy, though? Remember in that first video of the interrogation, I told you she was... when Detective Flores left the room and she was by herself and she did the headstand.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
The song she was singing was "Oh Holy Night," and the song she won this contest
was "Oh Holy Night."
It's kind of weird.
That's creepy.
Okay, so on August 8, 2011, Jodi told Judge Sherry Stevens, this is she's the presiding judge, and she's pretty stone-faced. Like, you'll notice throughout this trial, she doesn't have... Judge Belvin Perry, he had quite the personality. He's the guy who presided over Casey Anthony, but you'll find that she doesn't have much of a personality. You can't really read her that well. So, probably good for an impartial judge. Okay. Not good for Jodi, though, because, she has a thing against... I guess talking to women because she can't manipulate them.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
It's almost like she's like some type of sociopath and she uses her wiles to get her way.
Well, seems like that's exactly what it is. But anyway, Judge Steven... Oh, she told the judge that she wanted to represent herself. Jodi didn't want a lawyer. She wanted to represent herself.
That sounds like a smart decision.
So, the judge granted the request, but had Arias' public defenders Victoria Washington and Kirk Nurmi remain on as advisory counsel.
It's like, please stay close by on this one.
Yeah. This sort of move kind of goes in line with Arias' claim that she was very, very intelligent and, in fact, claimed to have an IQ close to that of Albert Einstein's.
I think his was like 162 or something.
Oh, yeah. She said she was right up there with him.
Yeah, she seems like it.
Someone who didn't even graduate high school.
Well, maybe she was just so smart. She was like, you know what? I'm just going to take my GED, get it over with, because I don't have time for the school
And
stuff.
she would also tell her mom, too, that you should read more. You don't read enough. That's how you get smarter, is by reading.
Well, that's true.
And, that is true, but, why would you tell your mom that?
Maybe she didn't read enough.
I don't know.
Sometimes I tell my mom to read more.
Please tell me you're not. Okay.
When am I ever serious?
All
right, sometimes I'm serious, but not always.
Okay, but yeah, so she's extremely arrogant, as you can see. On August 16th, 2011, a request to admit letters that Jodi claimed Travis sent her prior to his death was denied. In the letters, Travis allegedly admitted to being a pedophile. Prosecutor Juan Martinez told the court that the letters were tested and found to be forgeries. After the ruling, Jodi told Judge Stevens that she was, quote, over her head. The judge then reinstated her defense counsel. So basically, for like a couple days, she represented herself from August 8th to August 16th, and then she realized, I can't do this. Especially when you're going up against a state attorney like Juan Martinez, and I don't know if you've seen him in action or not, but he's
good.
Well, he's good, but he's also known for his aggressiveness.
Aggressive, yeah.
He's very cutting and sharp with everybody.
Plus,
and he works alone.
I don't think she realizes that just because someone is intelligent doesn't mean you're intelligent in
that
every
field.
aspect.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, I could not be a lawyer. If you wanted to know things about psychology and, maybe a little bit about education, I could do that. But no, not a lawyer.
Yeah, I mean,
that's you.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't dare. But there's one video, and I'm trying to recall it in my head, where there's a clip of Jodi representing herself. And Juan Martinez talked about it in his book, how she did it, and he just kind of sat there and watched her. And he was described, I hope I didn't have a pretentious look on my face, but he's watching Jodi fumble through her papers. He was she was just walking herself right into a pit.
I would love for somebody to make a meme or a GIF out of that and send it to conspired@gmail.com.
But we were talking about Juan Martinez. Yeah, he's known for his aggressiveness. And the thing is, Esteban Flores told her right off the bat, you know what? This state attorney, if this goes to trial, he is a bulldog. He is aggressive. He has more convictions than anyone in the state of Arizona. Just going on and warning her. So she had this preconceived notion of him. And that's important to remember as we'll go to trial.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And he is good. Because it's funny because you see him in the courtroom, and he's this aggressive, almost hostile person. And then you see these interviews with him afterward, and he's very calm, very soft-spoken, very congenial, very charming. And it's just I guess it's just who you are at your job.
Yeah, that's how he probably learned how to do it, was to be aggressive, to intimidate whoever's on the stand.
He's also physically a little short.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I like him. If I had anyone...
We'll leave that at that.
If I'm ever murdered, everyone out there, I want Juan Martinez to come to where I am and be the state attorney to get justice for my death.
Please don't.
Noted.
Did you ask? Please don't.
Okay. So, her attempt to represent herself is a big fat fail. All right, so what some of you may have noticed is pedophile. Since when is Travis a pedophile? What does that have to do with anything? Well, Jodi's then came out during 2011 with a third story of how this all went down. And it was detailed in court documents as part of the request that she made to admit electronic copies of Travis's letter. So basically, the judge said, if you want these letters admitted, then you have to let us all know what you're saying your story is now in order for it to be admitted. Because she really didn't want to do that. Not yet. But during this time, it became apparent to the media that Jodi was yet again changing her story. So people kind of started catching on based on public documents that were being filed. So this is a quote from the prosecutors. The defendant had previously attributed the crime to intruders. She now argues that all of the letters must be admitted to support her domestic violence defense. Prosecutors wrote in a motion to preclude the letters. The defendant argues that the letters are relevant to her claim of self-defense and that she was a victim of previous sexual and physical abuse by Mr. Alexander. So, Jodi, according to the prosecutors, claimed that Travis, quote, became angry when she dropped his camera, end quote, and that she was forced to kill him in self-defense.
Wait a second, what happened to the ninjas?
Dropped it. What I can almost bet is that her attorneys pulled her into a room and said, Jodi. Actually, I know this happened. I'm not making this up because...
They're like, Jodi, ninjas? Really?
I read Kirk Nermy's book, and he said that That's
Really?
exactly what happened.
That's what I figured.
They said to him, they said to her,
Come on.
Jodi,
Come on.
we do, you don't have to tell us exactly what happened, but we got to come up with something more believable.
Yeah, like ninjas. I mean, ninjas are scary.
The thing is, she wanted to deflect all responsibility. Like, they're like, you were there. You have to say that because your DNA's there. Your pictures are there. So you have to be there at the scene of the crime.
She has to
And
be
Jodi's thinking, how else can I find a way to say I was there but deflect responsibility, that I did it.
Right.
I bet claiming self-defense was a huge leap for her, even.
Yeah, I couldn't see her saying
like,
she was
happily
guilty
agreeing to that.
Yeah, that she was guilty to anything.
After saying all that stuff, like...
Yeah, because nobody would believe her.
Yeah. So this is our third story, but this is the one that she sticks to. Okay? Okay, so on December 16th, 2011, one of Jodi's defense attorneys, not her lead, but one of them, Washington, last name, filed a motion to withdraw from the Arias defense. And December 21st, 2011, the motion was granted and she was recused. December 27th, 2011, Jodi's younger sister Angela said that her sister's statements during the 48 hours interview were lies and that Travis's death was an act of self-defense on her sister's part during an incident of domestic violence. And Angela said she was not under oath when she spoke on TV and, yes, she lied. Angela wrote on Facebook after the Huffington Post sent her a request for comment. But it was because she was so in love with that man, she did not want people to know what a monster he really was. She wanted everyone to believe that he was as amazing as they thought he was. My sister is innocent of the crime they are accusing her of. She did kill Travis, but it was not in cold blood. It was not for revenge. It was because she was afraid for her life. End quote. And that's from her.
So that's kind of hard to believe. You would think that the friends, like, if you had friends that were just lunatics and, very controlling of their wife or girlfriend or something like that, you'd be like, oh, they're lying.
Well, yeah. Another thing is, like, it's kind of a tricky situation because let's say that Travis was a violent person and abusive, and let's say that his friends saw it,
right,
okay, and knew that he was this way. It's a difficult place to be because you don't want to speak ill of your friend, especially when your friend is deceased. So,
but if you're pulled up on the stand and they ask you if you've seen any violent tendencies or anything like that, then
true,
you're under oath,
but
and you would say.
I'm just saying, like, as far as commentary, like, outside of the courtroom, it would be very hard to say something against your friend. Especially if you'd never said anything like that before. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. I'm just imagining this in my head. I'm a very visual person, and so I'm visualizing him. He would have to be a whole different person around his friends than he would be around her.
Yeah, and his
friends...
Which
that is possible. I'm not going to say that's not possible because there are...
Sure.
Battered women out there who have boyfriends that probably act one way around their friends and another around them.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say that it's 100% impossible.
I have opinions about the alleged abuse, but after we go through everything, I'll tell you what I think about that.
Oh, I know you will.
I always do.
Exactly.
All right, so in January 2012, they needed a new defense attorney to try the case with Kurt Nurmi. And it just so happened to be Jennifer Wilmot, a death penalty qualified defense attorney, and she was assigned to represent Jodi. On February 9th, 2012, Judge Sherry Stevens denied a motion by Jodi's defense lawyers to remove the death penalty as a punishment option. The defense argued that Jodi should not face death because she had not planned to kill Alexander. His death was an act of self-defense, her attorneys argued. But the motion was denied. December 10th, 2012, jury selection for Jodi's trial began. The court summoned 375 potential jurors. And on December 20th, 2012, a panel of 12 jurors and 6 alternates, 7 women and 11 men, were sworn in for Jodi Arias' trial.
More men than women.
Yeah. I should also say that Kirk Nurmi, I noticed we talked about Washington requesting leave and was granted. Kirk actually tried to get out several times of this trial. I just know in his book.
Yeah, I wonder why.
He even went so far as to leave the public defender office and start his own private practice. And even still, even though he was out of that realm, he was still required by law to remain on the case since he had started it. And the excuse was that, well, Jodi actually fought it. She was like, don't let him be removed, whatever, because anybody else coming into the case, like the trial date was stamped and marked. Like it was going on trial on this date no matter what. So if someone new came in, they'd have to relearn
the whole case.
Everything. You're right. And she was saying there wouldn't be a fair trial to me.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, this defense attorney hated her.
I wonder why.
Well, he said, she was just like she is with other men. She was extremely manipulative towards him, very flirtatious, told him very weird things. She told, I think in one chapter in the book, he says that she told him intimate things about her body. Like,
I do that all the time with people I don't know.
Like grooming habits of intimate places of her body. Very odd.
Extremely.
So, but nevertheless, he stayed on, so Kirk Nurmi and Jennifer Wilmot would be representing Jodi. And Juan Martinez, the boss man, works alone. Now, he did have investigator Esteban Flores there with him, but he wasn't part of, his trying the case. Obviously, he's an investigator, but he did sit at the table with him in the courtroom. I just think that's pretty, badass that he works alone. And he convicts all these people. I mean, that's impressive. Normally, especially with death penalty cases, both sides have multiple. In Jodi Arias, the whole state had a total of 3 team members, not to mention all the investigators they had.
It's kind of like the BuzzFeed episode we watched last night where that guy goes and single-handedly finds, stolen paintings and goes undercover by himself with, whatever, warlords and stuff.
That's insane. He's awesome, though. All right. So, the jury was picked, and now we are getting into the trial itself. Now, warning to all of you out there, it's going to be
going to be a graphic one.
It's going to be graphic. It's going to be lengthy. Just based on the time stamp we're at currently, I'm predicting that we might make it through all of the prosecution and then pick up with the defense in episode 3, but that's just my prediction. All right, so
they're glad to know that.
Okay, let them know. And I'm also kind of talking out loud to tell myself a good stopping
they're all
point.
like, "Thanks, Natalie. We love that you let us know the timestamps."
Chilled smart.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So on January 2nd, 2013, opening arguments begin in Arias' trial. The Maricopa County prosecutor, Juan Martinez, cited the various stories that Arias had told law enforcement before she finally settled on a self-defense motive. Martinez described Alexander's murder as violent and said there were 3 different ways Alexander could have received a death blow. He was shot, he was stabbed in the heart, and his throat was slit from ear to ear. Alexander also had defensive wounds on his hands, according to Martinez. And if you're not familiar with what defensive wounds are, basically it's like if someone's stabbing you with a knife, it's like you're putting your hands up to cover your face.
It, yeah. Or wherever they're stabbing
and
you.
Little stab marks are getting on your hands.
Right.
Okay. In wrapping up his opening argument, Juan Martinez played a part of the media interview conducted after Jodi's arrest, in which she said, "Mark my words, no jury will convict me." Martinez asked the jury to mark Arias' words and concluded his opening statement.
He should have done like the Pirates of the Caribbean where he goes, "Consider them marked."
Yeah. That's the thing I was saying, why it would be so ill-advised to go on the media. And Kirk Nurmi said they always told her to not go talk to the media. And she did it anyway. Because anything you say can be used against you. And Jodi blasted this ninja story to 2 different media outlets. And look, now it's being played in court against her.
Every time you say ninja, I want to laugh about it.
It's a ninja story. Everyone was laughing about it.
The ninja story.
All right. So that was
prosecution opening. So during the defense team's opening argument, lawyer Jennifer Wilmot acknowledged that Arias had in fact killed Alexander, but said that the key question is what would have forced her to do it. Wilmot alleged Alexander had pressured Arias into having vaginal, anal, and oral sex with him. Wilmot also said she planned to call to the stand an expert who would testify about how Jodi's relationship with Travis fit the mold of domestic violence. Wilmot concluded her opening argument by saying that Alexander had become enraged when Arias dropped his camera and that she had to defend herself or she would not be alive today. At the close of the opening arguments, the prosecution called their first witness, Maria Hall, aka Mimi Hall, the girl he was taking to Mexico, to the stand. Hall testified that she had attended church with Alexander and had gone on a few dates with him. Hall said she felt safe in Alexander's company and never saw his temper. Prosecutors then called their next witness, Sterling Williams, a patrol officer with the Mesa Police Department. Williams described what he witnessed when he responded to the crime scene, as well as the condition of Travis's body. January 3rd, 2013. At the start of day 2 of Jodi's murder trial, the prosecution called Esteban Flores, a Mesa homicide detective, to the stand. Flores had investigated the crime scene and mentioned a phone call he had had with Jodi on June 10th, 2008. Now remember, she reached out to the detective.
Right.
Most likely to avert attention. Like, oh, if I'm reaching out to you, I couldn't possibly have had anything to do with this. Right?
Exactly.
The prosecution then played an audio recording of that conversation in court. During the recorded call, Jodi described herself as a good friend of Travis's and said she wanted to help the police in any way that she could. She told Flores she had heard that Alexander had passed away and that there was a lot of blood at the crime scene. She had asked what type of weapon was used or recovered at the scene. I think that's an interesting question that she asked him. Why do you think she asked him that?
Huh? What? Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention to what you were saying.
Oh, perfect.
No, I'm kidding. She probably asked that so that... I really don't know why. I still don't even know why.
Well, my thinking is that she might remember, because this is right when the police are at his house. And this is a recorded...
All right, so she's calling the detective.
Right. And remember, this is a recorded
him,
phone call that's played in court.
Right. So she's asking him... What did she ask?
She said,
where's the weapon?
Did you find any weapons? Were there any weapons recovered?
So she's trying to find out
what they
he
know.
knows?
Yeah, what he knows.
Okay.
And so that's, to me, that's what it seems like. Like, what do you know? Did you find anything?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
She's trying to dig.
Trying to figure out
what she needs to do to cover herself.
Right, to keep covering her tracks. I really feel like that's why she called him. I don't know. Maybe.
No, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
Okay.
Why else would you call somebody? If you guys have an
yourself?
idea, send us a or comment, whatever. Let us know what you think.
But in any respect, Detective Flores told her he was unable to discuss that information with her. When he asked her about her relationship with Travis, Jodi said that they had not dated long. She said, "We dated for like 5 months and we broke up and actually did not see each other for quite a bit. We tried to remain friends, more like buddies. We were intimate, but I would not say romantic as far as a relationship goes." In regard to the couples breaking up, Jodi said she had a suspicion that Travis was cheating on her. She said she could not trust him and claimed he would get, quote, upset real easily. During the phone interview, Flores told Arias that Alexander's friends had alleged that she had hacked into Alexander's email. Jodi denied the allegation. "People felt you were taking advantage of him or hanging out when you weren't wanted," Detective Flores told her on the phone. But Jodi dismissed the opinion of Travis's friends and said she felt they talked about her because she was an, quote, ex-girlfriend. "We need to know who had some type of beef with him or why someone would want to do this to him. It was an angry situation. Somebody went in there to hurt him, and they did. They hurt him really bad," Detective Flores said at one point in the recording. Jodi said Travis was quite strong, and she could not understand how anyone could overpower him. She also said she was concerned because, quote, he never locked his doors. When the recording ended in the courtroom, Juan Martinez turned to the witness turned the witness over to defense attorney Kurt Nurmi for cross-examination. Now, keep in mind, just if you're getting confused with names, Kurt Nurmi is Jodi's defense attorney. And remember, each time a witness takes
I want to
the
make sure
stand-
it's known that I'm not the big true crime person here. She is, and that this story, most of it is coming to me for the first time. And so when she asks me questions, or if I'm following along with this, I have to really think it through. Like, who are these people? Who was who? And
Yeah, and that's why I know names especially can be kind of confusing. So
yeah,
I'm going to keep reminding you guys of who these people are. So
yeah, 'cause this is a lot of information.
It is.
taken.
And a lot of funny names too.
Mm-hmm.
But remember that each time a witness takes a stand, if it's for the prosecution, they get the first chance to ask them questions, and then the other side, the defense, can ask them questions that have to do with what they just talked about. So Kurt Nurmi gets a chance to question Detective Flores. So Nurmi asks Flores if he had ever seen a picture of a French maid outfit that Travis allegedly wanted Jodi to wear when she would clean his home. And Detective Flores testified that Jodi told him she had cleaned Alexander's house, but said he had never seen the picture of the French maid outfit. The defense attorney also then questioned Flores about emails Travis allegedly sent to Jodi. Nurmi asked Flores if Travis had called Arias names in the email like, quote, slut and whore. Juan Martinez objected, citing hearsay and speculation, but Judge Stevens allowed the question. Flores then confirmed that Travis had sent messages to Arias calling her those names. So, basically establishing here that
She's a slut and a whore.
Travis, there's a little bit of verbal abuse going on there. And I'm not saying that...
They're trying to lean towards...
Well,
that
yeah,
he's
they're
abusive,
establishing...
whether it's psychological or physical.
They're establishing that abuse there.
Mm-hmm.
And also with the French maid outfit, like, you know how he asked her to clean his house?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There is a text where he said, this is what I want you to wear. And, like, I'm sure he was joking when he sent that, you know?
Yeah.
Why are you looking at me like that?
I don't know. I figured if a guy was sending a girl a picture of that outfit and saying, I want you to wear this.
He had to be joking. All right. So after a short recess, Detective Flores read from a Facebook message that he said Travis sent to Jodi. And the message said, I was nothing more than a dildo with a heartbeat for you. And that's what Travis sent to Jodi. Later, a fingerprint examiner with the Mesa Police, Heather Connor, took the stand and unveiled evidence found at the crime scene. Forensic teams took a total of 3 days to complete the processing of the scene at Travis's house and found evidence in his washing machine, Connor said. The contents included clothing and a broken digital camera which contained an SIM card. Or, I don't know.
I call it a SIM card.
Anytime something's on all caps, I always spell it out.
She spells it out. She's
The
like
clothing-
an ATM machine.
The clothing items, as well as a towel, appeared to have bleach stains, she said. Shortly afterward, court was recessed until January 8th. So on January 8th, 2013, Connor, the Mesa Police Department fingerprint examiner, continued her testimony on day 3. Connor took the court photos of Alexander's hallway, master bedroom, and bathroom. The jury was also shown a photo of a bloody handprint on a wall. Prosecutors said the handprint contained a mixture of Travis's and Jodi's DNA. When Connor finished her testimony, the prosecution called Dr. Kevin Horn of the Maricopa County Medical Examiner's Office to the stand. So this is the official medical examiner. Horn described how Alexander was stabbed 27 times, shot in the right brow with a .25 caliber gun, and nearly decapitated when his throat, voice box, and arteries were cut. As Horn spoke, jurors looked at photos of the dead man, whose body, Horn said, was decomposing and starting to mummify by the time it was found. According to Horn, Alexander's stab wounds were very deep and inflicted with major force. It was, Horn testified, impossible to determine if Travis was dead before he was shot, due to the amount of decomposition. The cause of death was excessive blood loss from the victim's body, he said, and Alexander had multiple self-defense wounds to his palms and fingers. Elizabeth Northcutt, a forensic... Well, let me just stop there for just a second. I think it's important to note that he said it was impossible to know if Travis was dead before he was shot.
That's what I was just thinking about while
Yeah.
you were talking about that.
There was a lot of controversy going back and forth with the prosecution and the defense because the defense is alleging he was shot first. And you'll see why it's important that he was shot first.
So they couldn't even tell?
It had been several days. Okay. And the prosecution is saying he was stabbed first and pretty much shot for good measure. And I'll explain what their theory is exactly in a minute. But
here's my thought on it. Remember on the last episode when we were talking about how he was shot in the brow and it went to his left cheek?
Right.
Well, I would think he would be alive unless she had to lay down low to shoot through the brow and into the cheek. He would have to be like on his knees and she shot at a downward angle.
Right. And that was another thing they were talking about. Juan Martinez was actually asking, would it even be possible, if he were shot first, would it even be possible that he could still be moving? Because what they're getting at is if Jodi shot him first, he should have gone down immediately.
Right.
In other words, but the defense was kind of saying, well, obviously he didn't go down right away because otherwise she wouldn't have kept stabbing him. But we'll get more into that later.
Okay, but I'm just saying that if he's shot here, the damage is going to be to the frontal lobe. He could still defend himself. His basic...
Dr. Kevin Horde even said, he was like, he would probably be conscious for maybe another minute.
Right, so he'll be able to put his hands up long enough to get defense wounds.
He was like, but that shot alone, after a minute would have been fatal, but he probably could have been conscious for about another minute.
Right.
But what he said probably wouldn't be doing much moving. He might be conscious, but he might not be doing much moving.
Okay, so he might not be able to throw his hands up. Is that what they're saying?
I don't know.
That's a good question.
But the point of this is that the defense is saying he was shot first. The prosecution says, no, he was stabbed first.
What do you think?
I'll tell you at the end.
To be continued.
Alrighty. So, going on to Elizabeth Northcutt. And she was a forensic firearms examiner with the Mesa Police. And she was called to the stand next. She testified that she had examined a cartridge casing found at the crime scene and identified it as a Winchester .25 caliber casing. She said she also examined the bullet removed from Travis's cheek. During cross-examination, Northcutt said she was not able to match the casing or the bullet to a specific gun because no weapon had been recovered from the scene. Shortly afterward, the court was recessed. So
she's asking about the weapon earlier, and they never recovered one.
Well, later on I'll get to something about that particular weapon.
Deeper into this.
Oh, yeah. January 9th, 2013, Ryan Burns, a once budding love interest of Jodi and her co-worker at Prepaid Legal Services, was called to the stand by prosecutors on day 4 of the trial. Now, this was a man that she had gone to visit in early June in Salt Lake City. Burns testified that he had a heated makeout session with Jodi just a day after Travis was allegedly murdered. Burns testified that he first met Arias at a prepaid legal convention in Oklahoma in April of 2008. A few weeks after that initial meeting, Burns and Jodi were chatting on the phone 3 to 5 times a week. Toward the end of May of 2008, he and Jodi had made plans for her to visit his home in West Jordan, Utah, Burns testified. According to Burns, Arias was several hours late arriving at his home on June 5th, 2008. She told him that she had gotten lost and had stopped to rest. Jodi had apparently dyed her hair from blonde to brown since the last time he had met with her, and she also had cuts on her hand when she arrived, Burns said. She had 2 small bandages on a couple of her fingers, he testified. Arias explained away the injuries by saying that she got them while working at a Margaritaville restaurant, and she had broken glass and cut her finger. The prosecution questioned Burns about Arias' strength, and Burns said she was pretty fit and, quote, had close to a 6-pack. She's a lot stronger than she looks, Burns testified. Burns was followed on the stand by 2 latent print examiners from Mesa Police, Maureen Smith and Kevin Biggs. The 2 witnesses described taking Jodi's fingerprints and a DNA sample. And I guess to kind of say something about the Ryan Burns testimony, I guess the point of that was to establish, at least the last part, that
the defense was kind of saying Jodi's 5'2" or something.
They're saying she can't.
She could. There's no way she could have taken
hurt
him on and pulled him into the shower. And he was saying, no, she's pretty strong.
Right.
And
yeah. I mean, if she's 5'2",
something like that. Don't quote me on that. But she's pretty short.
So she's.
And
how tall is he?
She's pretty thin.
How tall is Travis?
Travis was 5'8". I know that for a fact.
Okay, so that's not much of a height difference.
Yeah. Okay.
I've seen some pretty tough girls. They could probably deadlift something.
Yeah.
How much did they say how much he weighed?
I want to say it was like.
Was he over
210? I want to say it was something like that. He was a pretty. And at the time he had been working out, so he was thinner than he normally was.
Yeah.
But he was a stocky guy. I mean,
right,
you saw
right,
pictures of him.
Okay. I'm gonna say it's possible. I know some girls that work out all the time.
Especially with adrenaline going.
Yeah, if your adrenaline's pumping, yeah, you're gonna be pulling.
Yeah.
You'll be pulling some weight.
Okay, so latent print examiner Heather Connor was called back to the stand to testify about a palm impression that was found on the wall at Travis's house, as well as items recovered from the drying machine inside Alexander's apartment and a bloody carpet stain. On January 10th, 2013, and of course all those things were just to identify that the handprint was Jodi's, all that stuff.
Right.
January 10th, 2013, day 5 of Jodi's trial began with testimony by Nathaniel Mendez, a former detective with the Siskiyou County Sheriff's Office in California. Mendez testified that there is no restaurant called Margaritaville in Wairika, a fact that suggested Arias had lied about her place of employment to Ryan Burns, which undermined her explanation of how she had injured her fingers around the time Travis was murdered. Because remember, Ryan Burns testified that she told him those cuts she had on her fingers were from work.
Maybe she drove out of town to another place, another Margaritaville.
Mendez also testified about receipts found in Jodi's bedroom, which showed that she had rented a car in Redding, California on June 2nd, 2008, and then returned it 6 days later after she put 2,834 miles on the car.
So she doesn't own her own car?
Yeah, she has her own car.
Oh, okay. That makes it even worse.
Yep. Just wait. Lisa Perry, a forensic scientist for Mesa Police, was called to testify after Mendez. Perry said that over 2 days at the crime scene, she had collected blood evidence for DNA analysis. She spent a significant amount of time on the stand detailing the blood spatter and stains that were found throughout Travis's apartment. She also testified that a .24 caliber bullet casing was lying
25.
in a pool. Excuse me?
25. You said 24 caliber.
Did I say 24?
Yeah.
Excuse me, 25 caliber bullet casing was lying in a pool of congealed blood, suggesting that the bullet inside the casing had been fired after the blood was on the floor, indicating that.
She fired it after she stabbed him to death.
Right, indicating the
Well,
stab.
he may not have been dead. It's 27 times and slashed his throat.
No, the point of here is saying the shot came last.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm saying that I second guess myself on the slashing of the throat. In my mind, I'm imagining her like stabbing him, and then she just grabs a gun, shoots him, and for good measure, she slices his throat. But I don't know. I mean, you haven't got that far into it.
Yeah.
So,
I'll tell you.
I'm just...
Mesa Detective Esteban Flores returned to the stand after Perry completed her testimony. During cross-examination, Flores acknowledged that testimony he had given at a hearing on August 6, 2009 was incorrect. Now, the defense loved this. So, back in 2009, Detective Flores had originally said that he believed the gunshot came first.
Came first, yeah.
Well, he recanted that statement later on. But the defense was saying, why'd you recant it? That's what you thought, right? That's what the medical examiner told you, right? And they were all on this. Okay. So during that hearing, like I said, he said that Travis was shot before he was stabbed, which was challenged by the defense, arguing that, of course, he said the gunshot came first. And, Flores just basically said, I was misinformed. We didn't have enough information at that time. Since then, my opinion has been changed. And that was that.
At least he said it. It's not like they had to drag it out of him.
He was very forthcoming with it. He was,
right, exactly.
I made a mistake.
It's good.
Yeah. The final witness called by the prosecution on January 10th was Jodi Legg, a DNA analyst with the Mesa Police Crime Lab. I think Jodi Legg was like, crap, why do I have to have this name today?
Why me?
Why me? She's like, please call me Miss Legg. don't refer to me by my first name.
Yeah.
Legg testified she had analyzed a piece of wall cut out of Alexander's apartment and found DNA belonging to both Alexander and Arias. Later, the prosecution argued that since a .25 caliber round was found near Travis's body and that a gun of the same caliber was stolen from Jodi's residence from her grandparents' house in Wairika the week before, that she had staged the burglary and used the gun to kill Travis. Martinez claimed that Arias had stalked Travis and had slashed his tires twice. In addition, in the final days before his death, Travis had called her a sociopath and, quote, the worst thing that has ever happened to me. And he had texted that to her and stated that he was afraid of her.
See, he knew that she was a sociopath. My thing is did she shoot him or shoot twice? Because it's saying here
one shot.
Right, but they said they found one bullet in his cheek, and now they found one near Alexander's body.
They found the casing.
Oh, the casing. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up.
The prosecution, this was also something I had meant to put in the beginning, because she testified in the beginning, but I felt it was important to put in anyway. The prosecution also had Travis's first and longtime girlfriend, Deanna, I don't have her last name, testified to defend that Travis had never been abusive, as Jodi had claimed. She also claimed that Jodi was, quote, obsessed with Travis and had once been in his house baking cookies when he wasn't home. Because she said she had...
Who doesn't like to come home to fresh baked cookies?
Travis had asked Deanna, because they were still friends after their breakup, to go by and care for Napoleon, his dog. And she got in there, and Jodi was in there, and she was like, what the...
That would be weird.
And she said that Jodi, like, was holding the tray and looked at her and was like, do you want a cookie?
Would you like a cookie?
She was like, why are you not in California? What are you doing here? You don't... just creepy.
Yeah.
All right. So, now to get... So, let me explain something to you. Juan Martinez, I know this kind of seems like a lot of evidence being jumbled around, and what's the point? How are they saying...
A lot of information.
How are they saying that Travis was killed? Juan Martinez, and I kind of tried to present this the way he did it. He gave all this information, and then at the end, he presented this full theory of how Jodi premeditated the murder and then carried it out. And I'm going to explain that to you.
Okay.
And he gave several examples of why he knows it was premeditated. And I think it's important to know, I'll indicate, there's one piece of evidence on here that Jodi did not know that Juan Martinez knew. And in fact, in Juan Martinez's book, he indicated that this was such, like, profound knowledge, he didn't tell anybody. He didn't tell the defense. He didn't tell Detective Flores. He didn't tell the judge. He didn't tell anybody he found this. And he kept it to himself because he wanted to, like, shake the courtroom.
Right, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so throughout the brief presentation of the prosecution, they would go on to provide several pieces of evidence that indicate premeditation. The first are the receipts. They had several receipts they found in Jodi's bedroom at her grandparents' that Jodi rented a car in Redding, California on June 2nd. Now, remember, the day they are saying the murder took place was the day those pictures were taken, which is June 4th. Okay? On June 2nd, and was given a red car before asking that she be given a car that wasn't, quote, as loud in color. Jodi would later claim that it was because red cars get pulled over more often.
That makes sense, because I've always heard that your insurance is higher with a red car. Now, that may be like a misnomer or something. I never really Googled it to find out if that's true or not. But I've heard people say that if you own a red car, that your insurance will be higher. It's probably not true, but you never know. I wonder if... Well, actually, no, there was a statistic that said that red cars do get pulled over more often, or it's the most often car to get pulled over.
Could be true, but the fact of the matter is, she's got a car. Why is she renting one? Because she's going on this trip to see Ryan Burns, right?
Right, but no, what I'm saying is the reason she doesn't want the red car is because she doesn't want to be noticed because she's going to his
that's
house.
what I'm saying to you.
All right, we're on the same page then.
And the fact that she rented one at all.
Well, yeah. But some people don't like to put a lot of miles on their cars, and so, or they have cars that will not make long trips, and so they rent a car. Maybe she had a hunk of junk, and she was like, you know what, I'd like a car that's going to get me there.
You're really playing for both sides here.
I like to play on both sides.
second piece of premeditation evidence. It was then proved that before leaving, Jodi allegedly staged a robbery at her grandparents' house, and that all that was taken was the .25 caliber handgun.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
By the way, that handgun was never recovered. So we don't know if she took it or not, but it's awful convenient that a .25 caliber handgun was taken from her grandparents' house, and that was the same caliber used to kill Travis.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Jodi left the car rental agency on June 2nd and then actually went to Walmart and bought hair dye, as receipts would indicate, and then she dyed it. Keep in mind, she's been a platinum blonde this whole time, and she dyed it brown while spending the night at her ex-boyfriend Matt's house before traveling and arriving at Travis's house on June 4th very early in the morning. Like in the wee hours of the morning.
She said we for all our Irish listeners.
On June 9th, one day after this, and by the way, all these premeditation evidence is in no particular order. Okay? So
I'm just trying to keep up with all the evidence and everything.
On June 9th, one day after Travis was murdered, Jodi, and by this time she was in Salt Lake City with Ryan Burns, Jodi was pulled over in Utah for a license plate being upside down. Jodi claimed to the officer that some skater kids must have done it a few days ago as a joke while she was in a Starbucks on June 3rd. But the prosecution alleged that Jodi intentionally turned her license plate upside down to avoid detection.
Maybe a good strategy.
She came up with this whole story about how she was at Starbucks and she got in her car and she saw some kids on skateboards skating away and laughing. And
yeah, you're more likely to say, "Oh, I didn't know it was upside down," than making up a story.
Like, no, she had a whole story.
If I got pulled over and a cop said, "Hey, your license plate is upside down," I'd be like, "Seriously? Are you joking with me?" I probably wouldn't believe him at first. Yeah. I had to get out and look at it.
Cell phone records would also indicate that Jodi's cell phone was off while she was in Arizona, but she says that this was due to there being no charger available. But the state argues that she purposely kept her phone off while in Arizona to avoid detection. Because remember, originally she said, "I was never in Arizona."
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
Finally, and this is the part that Juan Martinez kept to himself. That was like gold for him. He found out while interviewing Daryl Brewer, Jodi's ex-boyfriend, that before she'd left on her trip, she asked Daryl Brewer if she could borrow 2 gas cans before going. But then she also bought a third, according to a Walmart receipt.
Oh, I know why she wants the gas cans.
Jodi indicates that she did this because she was worried, because she was driving an unfamiliar car, and she was worried about, being stranded in the desert where there were no gas stations. But the state alleged, however, that it was to make certain that there was no trace of her being in Arizona.
Yeah, because she could get somewhat close, fill up the tank, go in there, fill it up again with the gas cans, drive out, and then get gas farther away. So that way there's no cameras that could pick her up at gas stations.
Because, he brought up the first 2 gas cans. And then when it actually wasn't until later when the defense called Daryl Brewer to the stand that he asked him about her borrowing the gas cans. And then he could bring in that she bought a third one.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, who has more than 1 gas can?
They said she said, "Why'd you need to borrow 2?" She's like, "Well, it's gonna be a long desert." It's like, "Then why'd you buy a third one?" She goes, "Well, I returned it." So yeah, you returned it after June 4th.
Gosh, she tried hard. I mean I have to give it to her. That's
what Juan Martinez.
That's pretty smart. As soon as you said she got gas cans, that's what popped in my head was, oh my gosh, she just doesn't want to be seen on camera at a gas station close to his house.
So all of these things, according to Juan Martinez, are indicative of premeditation. Not only did she do it, but she planned on doing this.
Yes.
Okay.
Because a while back, or the last episode, I was thinking, okay, well, maybe this was just an act of passion. Yeah. And now that you're telling me this, I'm like, well, throw that out the window.
That's what I said. All right, so right before we wrap this up, I want to go ahead and give you the state's official theory of what they believe happened on June 4th and leading up to it. Okay?
Okay.
So the state alleged that Jodi arrived at Travis's house in the very early hours of June 4th. The two slept and then had a, quote, all-day sexcapade, in accordance with the timestamps shown by the pictures found on Travis's camera. The state alleged Jodi convinced Travis to, quote, pose for her in the shower. Then she got him to sit down so that she had more of a power stance over him, as the last photo shown is of Travis sitting down in the shower. Then she began stabbing him. They alleged Travis was attempting to shield himself, as indicated by the defensive wounds on Travis's hand. But he was able to get out of the shower and lean over his sink to look at himself in the mirror, while Jodi continually stabbed him in the back, as indicated by the stabs all over his back, head, and neck. They then alleged Travis fell and attempted to crawl down his hallway before Jodi caught up to him and finally slit his throat. She then dragged his body back to the shower, shoved it in there, then shot him in the head for good measure. They alleged Jodi then threw the bedsheets and the camera in the washing machine before leaving, not attempting to clean up any of the blood. 6 hours after killing Travis, the state alleged she left him a voicemail in an effort to make certain it seemed as if she was not there. And I included this 57-second voicemail because I just think it's the creepiest thing ever. Because keep in mind, she has called this, whether it was self-defense or not, she made this phone call knowing he was dead. So it seems like the voicemail was another, more evidence of premeditation, because it's like, why would you leave a voicemail for a dead man unless you didn't want to divert attention away from yourself?
Now I gotta hear it just to see.
It's so creepy.
I know Leslie called you, so I already talked to her, so you can call her back if you want, but it's not necessary. My phone died, so I wasn't getting back to anybody. And what else? Oh, and I drove 100 miles in the wrong direction, over 100 miles, thank you very much. So yeah, remember New Mexico? It was a lot like that, only you weren't here to prevent me from going into the 3 digits, so fun. Tell you all about that later. Also, we were talking about, when we were talking about your upcoming travels my way, I was looking at the May calendar, so I'm all confused. But Heather and I are going to see Othello on July 1st, and we would love for you to accompany us. I don't know when Team Freedom's event is, though, but, it's on the list, so we could do Shakespeare, Crater Lake, and the coast. So if you can make it. If not, we'll just do the coast and Crater Lake. But let me know, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. End of message.
Okay. That is all over the place. Like,
You can tell in her voice, too. She's like...
it was hard for me to hear her tone of voice and everything, or inflections or anything, but just all the different subjects she went over.
She's like frantic.
Yeah, it was all over.
But she's almost like attempting to make it seem as normal as she could. And she even said she'll later say on the witness stand, she recorded that voicemail several times.
What do you mean she recorded it several times?
I don't know how she would have been able to do that.
Maybe she knew his password to get in and check his voicemails?
No. It says, are you happy with this voicemail? If not, redo some.
And they could tell how
that.
to do it? Yeah, no, I know. But they can tell if you do it?
No, she told them.
Well, she told them.
redid
Okay.
it
Now I'm understanding.
to make it seem like she was cool, whatever. But why are you doing that unless you don't want to divert attention away from yourself?
Exactly.
Like, it can't be me. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. What
know?
did she say? She was in New Mexico? Or she got lost? She said she drove 100 miles out of the way.
In the wrong direction.
In the wrong direction?
To bolster her, what she originally told police was that she got lost in the desert, and that's why she was late to see Ryan Burns in Salt Lake City.
Now, I can understand getting lost, but 100 miles lost?
And by the way, keep in mind that the day after this murder, June 5th, she's like making out with Ryan Burns at his apartment or whatever. How sick is that?
Well, we're talking about Jodi here.
Whether it was self-defense or not, you're making out with another guy after you killed your other guy.
We're talking about Jodi here.
All right, let me wrap this up. So, Jodi made contact with Ryan Burns after this voicemail and told him she'd gotten lost. Then she arrived to meet him and spent romantic time with him before going home. The car rental agent indicated that it seemed there were some, quote, stains in the car that looked like, quote, red Kool-Aid, but he assumed that she might have had a kid in the back seat at some point. The state rested its case on January 16, 2013, after only 14 days of evidence. Now, comparing to Casey Anthony and a lot of other murder trials, that's not a lot of days of evidence for the prosecution.
No.
He's like, I mean, he proved all he really needed to.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because I remember I watched the whole trial, of course. It's on YouTube if any of you are interested. And Judge Sherry Stevens is like, please call your next witness. And he looks up and he's like, he's by himself at this table, Juan Martinez, and he's like, the defense rests and sits down.
Like, I'm done.
Yeah,
He drops the mic.
And the defense didn't even know. Like, they were like, well, we weren't prepared to start yet. And so that's why trial will be delayed for, like, I think a week or so, and then it'll pick back up with the defense. And that's where we will also pick up next week in part 3 of the case of Jodi Arias.
Yes, I am definitely looking forward to that.
So what are you thinking right now? Like, what's going through your head?
All right. First of all, we know that, or at least I know, my thoughts are guilty. Completely guilty. Way
We
too much
haven't heard
evidence.
the defense yet.
I don't need to hear the defense, to tell you the truth. The way I'm hearing it is, if she got the gas cans, she left the voicemail. That was the craziest voicemail.
Isn't that eerie?
Yes, completely.
Oh, also, she sent him several texts and emails after he was dead as well.
See, we should read those. We should have read those to them so that way they could hear that.
Maybe we could look it up for next time and open with that or something.
Yeah, we'll leave a note in there for that. Wow, there's just too much compelling evidence against her. I mean, you may come up with something for the defense that...
I mean, I won't lie. There are some pieces of the defense that, admittedly, I mean, I can't give my opinion yet, but are kind of compelling, I will say. And the defense does prove some things.
Okay, well then I'll wait and, listen to the defense before I say she's completely guilty, because, it's like one side. It's like watching a documentary.
Yeah.
When you watch a documentary, you're only getting one person's perspective.
Right.
And that's why you should do the research and
Do your
make
own
sure...
research, always.
Yeah.
Always.
That it's
Because
true.
when I first heard about this case, all I knew was guilty, 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 guilty. And same thing with Casey Anthony, guilty, guilty, she did it on purpose. And my opinion's totally changed about that case. Like, I really genuinely, going back to Casey, don't think she did it on purpose.
When we did that episode, the Casey Anthony case, I at first thought that she did it, like, maliciously.
Cold blood.
Yeah, cold blood. But, it changed.
Yeah.
My opinion changed.
There's always 8 sides to every story.
Probably more than that sometimes.
Definitely. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening. Before you go, we'd like to tell you about some of our favorite podcasts that we enjoy listening to.
Oh, wait. Before we get into that, let's tell them they should click on the 5 stars. And if you want to give us a review, if you're on iTunes or whatever, or go to iTunes. And, we don't care if you give us like this wild, review that tells us how great we are, and we know we are. No,
Tell us
kidding.
we're great. Tell us we're great, please.
Natalie needs that. We're great.
Yes. I'm like, Jodi, I need the attention.
But some people don't like to leave that. And if you don't, just click the 5 stars. I mean...
Easy click.
Easy
I do
click.
it all the time.
Yeah.
For other podcasts.
That's my thing. I listen to them, and if I like it...
One click goes
One click.
a long way.
Sometimes if I find a podcast that I don't really enjoy, I don't rate it, because maybe that podcast is not for me, and why is it up to me to give them like 1
Right.
star because I don't enjoy it?
Sure. That's why if I like it, I rate it.
Yeah, if I like it, rate it. If I don't,
So if you're listening to this
Find another
and
one.
you don't like it, just
Yeah.
move on with your life.
choose one of these ones we're about to mention.
Absolutely. Tell us about a couple how many promos do we have today?
Well, thanks for asking, Natalie. Today on Conspired, you will be hearing 2 promos.
If only you could see this face he's making right now.
I know, I love
Such a dad.
making my faces.
Such a dad.
Dad face. No, the first one is going to be from the BSP which is Believer Skeptics podcast.
I was thinking BFP, like BFG, Big Friendly Giant.
Big Friendly
What does this
Giant.
stand for? What does this podcast stand for? What is
Believer Skeptic podcast.
Oh, okay.
She hasn't heard this one. These are the ones that
What a
I
theme!
listen
What a
to.
concept! Sounds
And then-
familiar.
Oh yes, it's great. And then the other podcast is I gotta find which one it is. Oh, it's the Cabinet podcast. These are both great podcasts. BSP got me into it because they listened to ours and was like, hey, kind of sounds like us. You should give us a try and tell us what you think. And
Was that the episode I heard about the Mandela effect?
Yes,
Those
it is.
guys?
Yes.
I really liked theirs.
Yeah.
I was surprised. He played it while I was cleaning, and I was like, not a bad. And actually, I kept turning to you, and I was like, that's exactly what I told you in our episode.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was something about.
I made sure I played it around her.
I was like, it was something about we had Stephen Hawking. Me and the other guy were both like, this scientist who we rely on, blah blah blah.
It's
if he
funny,
believes that, it's got to have some merit to it.
but it's funny that they flipped it around. The believer became the skeptic in the Mandela, and the skeptic became the believer, but not in ours. You stayed the believer, and I stayed the skeptic.
Mandela effects for real.
All right, so what was the other one? Cabinet podcast. What I love about it is it's all about like paranormal and video games. And I'm trying to remember the episode. The main one I liked was I think it was either Pac-Man or Mrs. Pac-Man, and there was a ghost inside of it. I don't want to tell the whole thing because I don't want to ruin it. Let somebody go to the podcast, check it out. But we'll go ahead and play the promos for you and let them describe themselves.
Check these out.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm the believer.
I'm Cody, I'm the skeptic.
And together we are BSP, the Idiosyncrasy Files.
The podcast where two idiots discuss weird phenomena. This week we're talking about ghosts.
I believe in ghosts.
Why?
There's too much weird stuff in the world for it to be coincidental.
See, I don't, because ghosts are souls, and shirts, pants, and jockstraps do not have souls. These ghosts should be naked.
My jockstrap has a soul.
Moving on. Join us every week where we talk about cool phenomena ranging from
Skinwalkers
to
simulacra.
there you go. Bye! Find us on Google Play, iTunes, and all those other podcasting places. Or visit us at www.bspodphx.com.
Are there real ghosts in Miss Pac-Man? Are satanic secrets hidden in your Excel spreadsheet? Did Pokemon cause a spike in suicides in Japan? Hello gamers, I'm Tim Gibson, host of the Cabinet Podcast. I look at the strange occurrences behind your favorite video games. A new weird creepy story drops every 2 weeks on Wednesdays. That's the Cabinet Podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and other major podcast platforms.
All right, so that's the end of this episode.
Yeah. Definitely tune in next week for part 3 of the case of Jodi Arias. And after you check us out, go check out this podcast we mentioned.
What was episode 3 going to be about?
Episode 3 will pick up
On the defense?
with the defense of the
Yes.
trial. Hopefully,
So please stay tuned. Hit the subscribe button. That way it'll alert you. I had to go on my phone and I didn't realize that even though I'm subscribed to these guys that we promote, I had it turned off. So it didn't alert me on my phone. And I'd go in and be like, I think I got a new episode. And I didn't even know it. It's been out for like days. And so check it.
Drill confused.
Lily get confused too. Lily can't stand it whenever she confused. Anyway, thanks for
Good
listening
one.
and stay tuned for part 3.
Conspurred.
Conspurred. Lily.